Hey everybody, Brent here with Nutrition First Coaching, and in our first Whiteboard Wednesday video of 2022, we're going to talk about time. As this video airs, we've got 360 days left in the year. Let's plan it out. Let's look at all four pillars and figure out what we need to do to make 2022 awesome. Now let's go do this thing. Happy New Year and welcome to 2022. Now let's take a little time because as of publication of this video, there's 360 days left in the year. That sounds like a lot of time, but every year that goes by, one less year in our lives. So we need to plan for stuff. Otherwise, it's not going to get planned for us. It's just going to happen. And we're just going to be passive passengers in what we call our lives. So let's take 1 hour. Maybe it's a little more, maybe it's a little less. There's going to be some refining along the way. But let's look at each pillar of your life and let's try to figure out what the number one challenge is. What the biggest thing is you could try to correct or work towards, whether that's a behavior, whether that's something that happens to you on a regular basis, whether that's figuring something out about yourself. But what is that biggest number one challenge that you can do in each pillar that's going to move the needle the most for you? So let's look at number one. Of course, nutrition. I think from all the people I've worked with and talked to, planning is usually the biggest problem for people. They don't think ahead. They don't think about it when they grocery shop. They don't think about even the next day. And then nutrition just happens. And next thing they know, it's lunchtime, or lunch is a meeting, or they don't even have lunch, so they're eating stuff out of their desk drawer, or they're just being hungry. And that always leads to things happening poorly. Your body's not being maintained, you're not getting the nutrients you need, or you're getting too much of the low quality, nutrient void, high caloric stuff that's just making you sick from the inside out. So that's usually the biggest problem. Maybe it's a knowledge thing. Maybe you just don't know what to do. I would like to preface all of these by saying everybody's got the same amount of time in the day and the week and the year. So it's not a time issue. It's really more of how do you delegate your time and where do you want to emphasize your time to give you the biggest results. So let's take time off the table right away. It's not that you don't have enough time and your life's too busy and blah, blah, blah. That's not possible. Everybody's got the same amount of time. How do you allocate the time? And maybe it does come to a knowledge problem of knowing exactly what you need to do with the time you have to be the most efficient, to have some stuff planned, shopped for, prepped, ready to go, and be able to control your nutrition. This is one of the few things we can control in our lives is what we eat, what turns into our body, what we put in our mouths becomes us. And that's something we need to control. Otherwise, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to control it for us. We're going to be stuck eating crappy food, fast food, and we're just going to perpetuate that cycle. So whether it's planning, whether it's knowledge, maybe it's some other aspect, I don't know. Write in the comments below if it is, and I'll try to help you answer it as quick as possible. Movement. This is one where our lives are becoming increasingly more sedentary. Now moving into 2 years of the pandemic, people are working from home more, people are getting out less. But there's usually two things that happen in regard to somebody's movement. It's usually a knowledge thing. They don't know what to do. They go to the gym. They have 4 or 5 hours a week they're dedicating to exercising, but they really have no idea what they're doing when they're there. And their program, I won't even call it that, they're exercising just leads to more exercising, burning calories. They're not really building muscle, improving mobility, improving stability and athleticism, and improving their human physique, improving themselves. Maybe it's convenience. Maybe you know what to do. You got some program off the internet you think is going to work, and you're just like, oh, I couldn't make it to the gym today. It's 10 minutes the other direction from work, and how am I going to figure that out? If that's the problem, fix the convenience thing. Maybe you get stuff at home you can do. Maybe you meet a friend there before work and that takes care of the convenience part and a little bit of the accountability part. Whatever it is, figure it out with your movement and start to make that biggest correction when it comes to movement. The next one, stress management. Maybe some people don't even know what that means, stress management. They don't understand that stress, good and bad, all accumulates and can cause all kinds of problems. It can manifest as pain in your joints. It can manifest as lack of sleep, brain fog. It can perpetuate all kinds of things in terms of deteriorating health. So if we don't manage our stress through stress relief activities, everybody thinks about like meditation and yoga, and maybe that for you it's walking, maybe it's reading, maybe it's just sitting quietly, maybe it's getting more sleep. All those things can be stress management. You got to figure out what moves the needle the most for you. So what is stress management, and then how do you do it? Look some stuff up and you can find out all kinds of stuff about stress management. Relationships. This is kind of the last pillar that we really want to look at that kind of wraps everything together. And in relationships, communication and understanding are probably the two biggest things. So if you're not communicating with the people that you're in relationships with, your spouse, people in your family, your kids, your parents, everybody else, they don't know what's going on. They don't know what you're doing. And if you're not trying to understand them, if you're not trying to think from their perspective or ask them questions to find out what they're thinking and what they're wanting, then you're just probably kidding yourself in terms of relationships. There's all kinds of things out there you can use. One of my favorite is The 5 Love Languages. It's a great book. It gives you a set of tools to know how people receive love, and by what they mean by that is how they receive that you care for them and that you actually want to do things for them. Is that by touch? Is that by what they call like acts of kindness? Is that by doing things for them? So you're actually performing things for them. Maybe that's mopping the floor or going to the grocery store for them. But it's how does that person receive love from you? So that's a good one for relationships. If we take all 4 of these pillars and we really put them together, this would lead up to a heck of a year. If you found one little improvement, one challenge from each of those, and you worked on that throughout the year, you figured out what the behaviors were you needed to put in place that would start to push you forward and make that work for you. So I would tell you, do this even if it's for the first time ever. Sit down, take an hour, figure out something in each one of these pillars, and then figure out how you need to fix that. If you want some help with that, get on a free call with us. I'd love to talk to you. We'll hammer out a plan. We'll talk about each of those pillars. We'll figure out something that can, at least give you something that will help you move forward on those. And if that comes down to some ongoing coaching and we work together, great. If that comes down to figuring out a couple little key points in each of those pillars and you figure it out on your own and everything keeps progressing, awesome. But just think about it. Try to get a little bit of assistance if you need it. Maybe that's a family member, maybe that's a coach, maybe that's a friend. But put a little time into it. This is the beginning of the year. This is the time to do it. Have a great 2022, and I'll see you next week.